Hey you guys, how you doing? All right, so we're going to do the notes for chapter 35. I'm going to do a separate video to tell you for the night class and then for the day class for 2011 for both, what we're going to do with the testing and all that. So for what we're going to do is have chapter 35 and 36 up and running by tomorrow at the latest, Monday being, that would be Monday the 23rd, and then go from there. Sound good? And I'll also have the online labs on Canvas, so you guys will have everything there, and we'll be set. All right, so plant structure, growth, and development. The three main parts of a plant, don't forget, we've got the roots, the stems, and the leaves. Okay? Hopefully, you remember what the roots do. I'll give you a second to think about it. Roots, they're going to suck up your water, your nutrients, and anchor the plant in place. Stems are going to carry your water, your nutrients up, and then bring your sugar, your glucose, either from your source in the summer months when there's sun going on, from the leaves down to the roots, or when there's no sun available, from the roots up to whatever part of the plant needs it. And then your leaves, the main location of photosynthesis. All right? Three main parts, three main organs. Look at that, root, stem, leaves. Root system, you've got roots needed for nutrient water absorption, stem, and leaves needed for photosynthesis. They're the green part, photosynthesis. And what makes it green? Hopefully remember, it is chlorophyll. All right, this is weird, I don't like not having y'all's reaction. Okay, and we will probably switch over to online as everybody has a chance to get their computers up and running. We'll do a live stream of lectures because I know you guys and I will all like it better. Okay, so hang in there. Roots, organ, and areas vascular plants in the soil. You remember you've got the monocots and then the eudicots. Remember eudicots just mean the true, EU means true dicots. Monocots, you're going to have your fibrous root system right here. Okay, I always think of like more of a weedy root system. And then the eudicots are going to have the taproot, so think like a carrot. You've got the main root and then a little bit of extensions off of it. Okay. These are really, monocots are really better for light rainfall and they'll prevent erosion. That's why, one of the reasons why we had big issues that led to the Dust Bowl, because we had a lot of these plants that got plucked and you had a lot of erosion going on. You had, not back into the groove of it yet, guys. You had a lot of lack of rain, a lot of the cattle that came in, a lot of the natural plants from that area got taken away. So in order for crops. So let's the Dust Bowl. Root hairs are going to increase surface area, absorb more nutrients and water as well. Now here's where things get really interesting. We've got the prop roots. So, okay, these guys are going to support your tall trees. All right, heavy trees. You've got the storage roots. They're going to store your food, right? So we're talking carrots, radishes, horseradish as well. Then we've got strangling roots right here. The seeds will germinate up in the top of the branches, and they'll actually send aerial roots down to the ground. So you see this actual tree growing around a ruin right here. And then you've got the buttress roots. And I'm going to get the Notre Dame out. This is actually what gave the idea of Notre Dame support. And then the metaphors. So the PNs, the P is silent in the metaphors, and this is what we call cypress knees. This is really common in areas that have very thick mud where there's low oxygen availability, so the root systems will shoot up these little extensions so they can suck up extra oxygen from the air. Now let me show you the buttress with the Notre Dame. If you've ever noticed, most churches are in the shape of a cross. Look at the aerial view of it. It's actually in the shape of a cross. All right, when Notre Dame was built, it was so tall and so skinny that the walls, it was feared that it wouldn't stand up. So they used these buttresses to support them and keep them standing up. And it's the actual same concept as these buttress roots. Very tall and very skinny to support these large, tall trees. Kind of cool. Stems. These organs will separate or raise leaves, exposed in the sunlight, also raises reproductive structures. What are the reproductive structures? Hopefully we're all seeing flowers, right? The nodes, right here, we've got nodes. They're all going to separate the leaves that are attached. And then you've got internodes. These are stem segments, right, between the nodes, in between. Then you've got the auxiliary buds. This is going to be where you're going to have a lateral shoot that's going to come off of it. And then you've got your apical or terminal bud. Composed of developing leaves and compact series of nodes and internodes. Your terminal bud is what you're going to end up having to cut right about now in order to be able to have new growth occurring. And then when you cut that bud, that's when it's going to cause what we call the pruning. That's going to cause all that new growth to occur and have all your new growth that's going to take off in the springtime. The reason it's good to have all the pruning occur now is because we sit there, we cut the pruning, we do the pruning, and then we have a bunch of new fertilizer, lots of sunlight, lots of rain, and then all that, when you cut the auxiliary bud off, terminal bud off, you're going to have the plant all of a sudden go, woo, it's going to freak out, it's going to think it's under attack, so it's in stress mode, it's going to grow like crazy to try and survive, and then when you give it all the fertilizer, all those nutrients, all that water, it's going to take off, all right? Apical dormancy, that's what I'm just talking about. So, you don't want a plant to grow in the winter because if it grows, it's going to have that exposure and it's going to go ahead and be a weak spot for the plant. So any kind of cold snap comes in, it can freeze the plant, which can then allow the freezing to go throughout the entire plant, thereby killing the whole plant. So you want it to go into a type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Bears go into torpor, which is a type of...
Dormant?
They go dormant. Yes, thank you. Right there. Inhibition of auxiliary bud by an apical bud branching out so nothing can grow. It stops everything from growing. You cut the apical bud and stimulates the growth. That's why we prune in the spring, to allow everything to grow and take off. Not just take off in the stem, but also in the roots. You'll have a lot of growth in the roots as well. Leaves are obviously the main photosynthetic organ, but there's actually a lot of different types of leaves. You've got blades that are very flat. That's typical in your grasses. You've got petiole. Don't ask me to say that word in English. It'll be the stalk. Joins leaves to the stem at the node. Grasses and other monocots will not have these. Then you've got tendrils, any kind of vines. They're really cool. So if you start really watching your plants right now, please, especially since you're home, really go outside in your garden, look at your plants, anywhere you're going. Hopefully you're not going very far, but wherever you are, look at your plants, look at what they're doing. Especially vines, you'll see them stretching, and you'll see these tendrils stretch out and grasp onto things. It's really cool to watch. Just watch over progression for a couple of days at a time. You'll see them. It's really neat. Obviously, you've got spines like the cacti. The spines are actually the leaves. You've got storage leaves right here. Succulents will use this for water. This is called an ice plant. Really pretty flowers. Reproductive leaves. Right here. They'll fall and take root in the soil, and that actually has a seed inside of it. And then you've got also brightly colored leaves, poinsettias. These are actually not flowers. They're the brightly colored leaves. The flower is a yellow in the middle. That's the reproductive part. Kind of neat. Dermal tissue. You have three types of tissue in plants. You've got dermal, you've got ground, and you've got vascular. Dermal, just like us, dermis, skin. Okay, so it's outer protective covering. It's going to limit the water loss. It's the number one thing plants had to overcome when they went from water to land. Water loss. It's the first line of defense. So you've got the epidermis, just like us, layer of tightly packed cells in non-woody plants. All right, the cuticle is the waxy coating to prevent it from losing water. That's its main purpose. Now you're going to find both ground, dermal, and vascular tissue throughout the entire plant, from stem to roots to leaves. You're going to find them throughout all three. All right? Those are your main three parts. Vascular tissue, hopefully you remember these guys, xylem and phloem. Xylem, what letter comes before X? W. So xylem carries water and phloem carries sugar, glucose. All right? ground tissue, it's neither dermal nor vascular. It's kind of like the protist, all right? If ground tissue, if it's not defined as dermal, if it's not defined as vascular, it's going to be ground, all right? It's used for storage, photosynthesis, and support. It's the main way to think about it. In the lab, you guys are going to get to do, you're going to get to see a lot of different really cool pictures of them. So just like you've had at the lab stations where you've got pictures of what the slides show, I'm going to have pictures of what the slides would have shown had we been able to do it in person. So no big deal. I'll have the actual pictures and I'll have the lab itself. So there'll be 2 parts to the labs, okay? Parenchyma cells, these are your metabolic functions. They perform most of the metabolic functions. They're going to contain your chloroplast, where photosynthesis is going to occur. They're capable of cell division to replace any kind of damaged cells, and they are considered part of the ground tissue. Don't worry about these guys. I just want you to experience that there's different types. All right. Water conducting cells of xylem. Tracheids are long, thin cells with tapered ends. Tracheids are what make up the xylem, and the tracheids, to make up the xylem, carry water. All right. Vessels are wider, shorter, thin-walled, have less tapered than the tracheids, and they're lined end to end to make these little micropipes to allow things to pass through them easily. Okay. Then you have the sieve tubes. The sieve, S, carries sugar, and that's what makes up the phloem. The sieve tube makes up the phloem, and it carries the sugar. Okay, they're going to line up end to end, form these long, long, long tubes. You can get to see them right there. And the non-conducting cells, companion cells as well, that'll grow alongside them and connect them through the plasmodesmata. Almost done, guys. 5 more slides. Okay, meristem. Remember, in meristem, you've got the word stem. So meristem cells are stem cells for plants. They can be found in apical, the tips of the roots and your shoots. Anywhere where there's new growth, these cells can become dermal, ground, or vascular, whatever they need to. Or they can also be lateral. Lateral meristem is also called vascular camium or core camium, depending on the location. That's when the plant is growing out. Plants are going to grow 2 ways. The first growth they're going to have, primary growth, is going to be in height. Because the number one thing is a plant that grows tallest to fastest is going to get to the sun fastest. It's going to have wind, right? So primary growth is height. Secondary growth is width. So it's got to grow in height first. Once it grows in height, it's going to grow in width. That's that lateral growth. That's when it's going to start bulking out and getting thicker, okay? There we go. Primary growth, growth in length, secondary growth in thickness. Roots have the root cap. Why would you have a root cap? Why would you have that tip? All right, excuse this comparison, but it makes you understand it better. Think of a bullet. A bullet has a tip on it. Why does it have a tip? So it can pierce through things, right? Same thing with the root cap. It has that tip on it so it can easily pierce through the soil and can reach to that new source of water, new source of nutrients, okay? Roots have a root cap covering the tip and is just in front of the meristem area. Again, meristem, stem cells that can become whatever they need to be. Ground, vascular, or dermal, all right? Any one of those 3. You'll notice that vascular bundles are going to be found in different ways depending if they're monocot or dicot, especially when you look in the lab, so keep an eye out with that. But you'll notice that they're going to be found in these vascular bundles throughout. So you'll have phloem and xylem in vascular bundles when you do a cross section of the stem of a plant. It's kind of cool. All right, it's covered in an epidermal layer, which is going to have specialized guard cells that protect the opening of the leaves, on the bottom of the leaves, called the stomatas. And I'm hoping we remember the stomatas do what? They allow the air, aka CO2 and oxygen, in and out, right? And you have to have guard cells around it to either open it or close it. Ground tissue is primary parenchyma cells that are found between those 2 layers of the epidermis, and that's referred to as mesophyll. Okay? And if I am not mistaken, we just finished our first chapter. All right, you guys. See you in chapter 36.